Chris, great to have you back up in Glasgow.
Thank you.
Been a while since you left, a long time, here for 6 years. How did it come about coming up? Because Spurs were after you, Middlesbrough. Why Celtic?
Well, I don't know whether you know how transfers work, but Celtic agreed a fee with Chelsea for £6 million.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And I devalued $4 million in a year though, because I've moved to Chelsea previously for $10 million.
Yeah.
Had a bit of a shocker. You didn't want to say that, did you?
Chris, I won't do that.
So I had a bit of a shocker, but Martin O'Neill came up north of the border, and so I had the choice, Spurs or Middlesbrough or Celtic, and decided to have a punt north of the border at Celtic.
And there weren't many English at Celtic at the time. Like, it's a bit of...
Well, I don't know whether you know the sort of Irish-English connection, so there may be a reason for that.
Yeah, did it not make you a little bit tentative to choose Celtic? Because I think Stubbsy was up here, and I think there was Tommy Johnson.
Yeah. Alan Stubbs, yeah.
And you were the third in a long time.
You've been doing your prep.
I did. Look, I went on Wikipedia and I looked at the Celtic squads over the decade, and there wasn't many English. There wasn't many.
Where are you going with this?
Well, was it not a bit of a worry to come up to Celtic being English?
Not really. I sort of don't. When I've signed for clubs, I've not sort of looked at the nationalities and thought how many English, how many Spanish, how many Portuguese, how many Australians.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
So I didn't think like that. All I was thinking is solely about my career, because I'd had the bad season at Chelsea. Things had gone well for me at Norwich and Blackburn. Moved to Chelsea, didn't go well. Getting back on track, and because Martin O'Neill was really highly sought after at that particular time, I think Leeds United, who were flying at that time, made a beeline for Martin, but he decided to come north of the border, and so Martin sort of talked me into it.
Yeah, and so then you said you had a bad season at Chelsea.
Well, you can say that as well. 3 goals in 39 games. That's not a good return. That's a bad investment.
Yeah, and 10 million in those days. How much should you be worth now?
Well, do you know the better one would be £5 million, because when I moved from Norwich to Blackburn, that was a British record transfer fee, and so do you listen to the Monday Night Club on 5 Live?
I do not, Chris.
Thanks for your support. So a guy called Kieran Maguire came on about 4 or 5 months ago and said that £5 million back then would equate to 101 million in today's transfer money. So you're sitting next to 101 million pound man.
Football royalty in this day and age. And yeah, so you had Henrik, obviously the king of kings, and you played with Shearer. What was it like? Because how's it comparing playing with the two?
I mean, they're two. Everybody asks me, who was the better player. So it's always and I hope you don't ask me that. But it's always a difficult one. Both are absolutely ruthless, brilliant finishers. I think Henrik would have been more adaptable in terms of when he went to Barcelona and won the Champions League. He came. They put him on the right-hand side. A couple of lovely passes. That was 2006, I think, beating Arsenal. Who's your team, by the way?
Celtic man.
You're a Celtic man, right?
Yeah. So I know the English-Irish connection.
So I think Henrik was more versatile in the positions that he could play. Alan was sort of more of an out-and-out number 9, ruthless striker. But the season we won the league at Blackburn, he was phenomenal. And the older he got, I think he played more back to goal. But in those, Alan could shift a bit when he was in his younger years. He could, both phenomenal.
And with Celtic, obviously, Rangers won the 9 in a row. Martin came in. You boys came.
Why did you bring that up?
Because Celtic won 2 9s. There's 2-1 in the 9 in a row. The 10 is cursed unless you're Bayern Munich. But what was it like? It was obviously Celtic were on the back foot. Then Henrik came, you came, and then took over.
Look, the 90s Rangers dominated, didn't they? The likes of Gascoigne and Laudrup. When you go back further, Terry Butcher, Chris Woods, signed a fair few England internationals. They dominated the 90s, and then the Celtic team. You look back at that Wim Jansen year, amazing, really, because if you looked at the Celtic squad, which got the better of Rangers that season. That's amazing in itself. And then I think Martin coming up, he wanted to turn the tide, and I think he did that. And what were we, 20 whatever years on, and Celtic, I think, no doubt are the dominant force and have been for the last 20 whatever years.
Yeah. And then obviously that night in Seville, sad, but that run was just next level.
Yeah, I mean, we'd had the disappointment actually of being knocked out of the Champions League against Basel in Switzerland, of all places. So I remember sitting in the dressing room, the disappointment. The owner, Dermot Desmond, came in after, and then we had the run, UEFA run, beating Blackburn, my old team, and Liverpool, knocking the English teams out. They were always really competitive, those games. And then in some respects, the semi-final, we had Boavista in the semi-final, and then the pressure was sort of on us because everybody expected us to get the better of them. And Henrik scored late on in Boavista. We'd drawn the first game 1-1, and Henrik scored late on a goal which only he could have scored. Brilliant feet, manoeuvred himself and sort of scooped the ball in with his left foot. And then we had the final, and in terms of the whole occasion, the whole year, it was amazing. Going to Seville, the sea of green and white, the supporters on the way to the stadium. But ultimately,
fans.
I don't know if there was that many. But ultimately, we ended up, losing the game against Mourinho's team. Very good.
When you look back,
now
Deco.
Yeah, but so what? I mean, they sort of hit the. Deco hit the deck, and so did a lot of their players. But I think you ask a lot of Celtic fans, they would say there's a lot of sort of gamesmanship from them, and there was. But in the end, they got over the line, and they're the team which won. So from our point of view, it was a sore one, and especially for Henrik, who the two goals he scored that evening. So that was great to look back on, other than the final.
Other than losing. Well, it's classic Jose, the gamesmanship. What we know of Mourinho's teams now, that's classic gamesmanship. And then, to the present day, again, we said when you came, a bit struggling, now Celtic dominating, as we said. When you look back now, when you joined, did you think Celtic would go on such a run in that 23 years since you joined?
No, look, in fairness, when I joined, I was never thinking like that. I was, thinking about, I think Rangers had won the league by 21 points the previous season. It was about sort of bedding in because I'd had the poor year at Chelsea, trying to hit the ground running, where in the early part of that season we beat Rangers 6-2 in the demolition derby. That gave the team belief. But Martin O'Neill was always very good in terms of taking the pressure off the players, always saying Rangers were the benchmark that season. Albeit we were absolutely flying, but Martin was very cagey, very good like that, and he was an important part. We signed Alan Thompson, Neil Lennon we signed around the Christmas time. It was really massive signing in terms of getting us over the line, just to sort of add quality and experience to the team. But we had a good team, and it was about just our confidence growing, the momentum growing. Lubo Moravcik, it's some good players in that team, but Rangers were, extremely good back then.
Yeah, and they were spending a lot of money. Torre Andre Flo told me. I saw that Celtic hopefully break the record after Jota going. But looking at now, Ange's team, Ange's gone.
Yeah,
that was a sore one. It was a sore one.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I mean, Brendan's back now, of course, but the issue Brendan had is when he left. Ange left at the end of the season. I think there were noises. Everybody knew there were certain noises going around, and I think we all, the most ardent Celtic fan would understand why Ange went to the Premier League. There'll always be the element of Celtic supporters who, anybody leaves the club, they won't forgive, and I understand that. But it's about opportunity. He's an ambitious guy, Ange Postecoglou.
He loves a rebuild.
Yeah, he does. And if you look, it's the thing coming up here. You look at his career, his managerial career. Nobody really knew of him, when he turned up at Celtic. But he certainly, in a very short space of time, turned the team round and built a formidable team. Great reputation. His recruitment was brilliant, and he's got a big job at Tottenham. But he will love the challenge, and a big part of that is whether Harry Kane will stay, whether he'll go. But it won't bother Postecoglou in the way that he plays. He will just go for it. I think they may take a couple of beatings next season, but I also think the Spurs fans will enjoy the brand of football rather than sort of negative
Yeah.
football under Conte and Mourinho and Nuno Espirito Santo when he was there briefly.
Yeah, because Ange's go get him. Obviously, he wants to
He
win.
doesn't mess about.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. And sometimes it backfires. Celtic probably lost a few games in Europe last year. They shouldn't.
Yeah, but do you know what? Yeah, I'm sort of mixed with that. I mean, you would have seen this first hour against Real Madrid, where you know,
arguably should have been 3 up.
and that was the thing. And you know, he wanted to give. I think it was a disappointment from his perspective. But he wanted to give teams a bloody nose, and in fairness, they should have beaten Shakhtar away. They didn't take the chances, and that was an issue in Europe. So what would have been interesting is seeing Ange go again this season, after another year. But you know, he's gone. Brendan's back. Brendan didn't do great first time round in terms of European competition, but 7 trophies out of 7. You know, very dominant, the invincible team. That's not a bad replacement.
Would you think the Ange side is the best since the 03 side, or
How can you ask me that?
or the Brendan invincible team?
We didn't win anything in 03.
Fair point.
We won the treble in 2001.
O'Neill, Ange, Rodgers. Who's the best? Which is it?
O'Neill, come on. That's a silly question.
Who's the best since that O'Neill team? Because Hatate came in, Kyogo.
Why do we have to have these debates? I would say personally, I love watching Postecoglou's team. Just in terms of where he came from, I remember covering a pre-season game against West Ham where they lost 6-2 at home, and you think, oh my God, you know, it's taken over a mess. How, you know. Yeah. How can he turn things around so quickly? And do you know what he did do? But also the brand of football he played. It was, you know, remarkable to come in, say what he said he was going to do, play this attacking brand, and then actually do it a couple of months later. Phenomenal.
And Jota's gone Saudi. I know you're not a fan of Saudi Arabia, but
How do you know?
Twitter.
Right. Okay. Very good.
Are
you stalking me?
I'm following, Chris. It's called following.
Right.
Do you think the Saudi League is going to trouble the Premier League, or do you think might die out?
I think it will do. I think the interesting one is Mbappe now, isn't it? If like from everything I've sort of heard and read, Mbappe's not going to go to Saudi Arabia. That would be a bit of a game changer because, you know, essentially for the Saudi League, as far as I can see, Ronaldo's gone there. He's at the end of his career. Benzema, you know, great players that they are, but they're coming to the end of their career. So, you know, it's, you know, as far as I could see, it was a league for aging players, a little bit like the MLS in that respect. I see Ronaldo put the boot into the MLS, didn't he, as well, because Messi had signed for Inter Miami. I know Ruben Neves has gone over there and chasing the money. So is Jordan Henderson, and you know, it's their right to do that. I think it's more of a problem for the I'm not going to say the lesser leagues, but leagues like the Scottish League, where the best players, the Saudi teams can come and take the best players, as they have done with Jota, you know, splash the cash, get the heads turned. So, you know, it could be a problem for the leagues like the Scottish leagues. But it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. If Mbappe goes to Saudi Arabia, I think that's a real game changer. But I would like to think that sort of Premier League players, and what have you, sort of, they're paid enough, aren't they? You know, how much money do they want?
Yeah, especially 700 million for a year
that's quite a lot.
It's not bad. It's not bad. You could do some stuff with that. With the Prem, do you think Arsenal go one step further, or no? And so,
look, I think they were brilliant last season. I love watching them. I wanted them to win it. I'm not an Arsenal fan. I love Martin Keown though. I didn't when I played against him. Declan Rice is an interesting signing, isn't he? You know, I think he'll make them better. But it must be the same as you. Who can catch Manchester City?
Yeah, it's
and that's the issue. And so, you know, while Arsenal, you sort of hoping Saka, great player that he is, would have, you know, matured. Martinelli would have matured. Odegaard was brilliant with them. You know, the sort of link man. But likes of Haaland at City, you know, he's going to score a barrel load, isn't he? De Bruyne is getting on a bit, but he's still, you know, so much class. I think they'll miss Gundogan, but look, all things being equal, I think Arsenal will have a good season, but I don't think at this moment in time anybody will catch Manchester City.
Yeah, not for a while.
No.
Not for a while. Not Luton, obviously. They've just come up.
I love
what
Luton,
a crazy
though.
story. It's beautiful.
Well, it just, I mean, the Rob Edwards thing first and foremost, isn't it? You know, sacked by Watford and then getting the opportunity.
Local rivals.
Going in at Luton, and that whole story's, you know, pretty remarkable. My son actually, who plays non-league, was playing with a guy, Joe Taylor, who took one of the penalties in the playoff final. He actually scored and it was disallowed. So that would have been less than 2 years ago. I don't know what tier it is. You may be more of an expert in that. So that would have been sort of, well, semi-pro, and all of a sudden it shows you how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
And you know, next season he'll be playing Premier League football. So
With Luton at Kenilworth Road.
yeah, and I love that. I mean, do you know what? I don't see that. I don't think they'll stay up, but you know, they'll be looking to bloody a few noses and make life uncomfortable, and especially Kenilworth Road. I played there on the old plastic pitch many years ago, where you'd sort of get third-degree burns when you fell over. But it's it's an old school ground.
It's still got the old stands.
I love all that.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to obviously make it Premier League standard, but it's just they're everyone's second team this season. I want to see them stay up.
Yeah,
it's a tough one
Same.
this year with who's going down. It was tough last final day.
Yeah,
It's just Luton, maybe Sheffield United, but then
you're just writing off all the promoted teams, aren't you? You think Burnley will stay up?
yeah, they'll have a great time.
Who's down then for you?
Oh, I don't get paid that much. That's above my pay grade, Chris. Who do you think is going down?
Well, I can't answer that at the minute because we need to wait to the end of the window.
Yeah, that's true. And we have a Carling.
It's a good out that.
Yeah, fair enough. Can't argue that. We have a Carling. Out of past and present players, who'd love to have a Carling with? Which player? Just
Past or
present player who'd love to sit down with, have a pint of Carling with.
I would love to sit down with Martin Keown and have a pint of Carling.
You're a big fan of Martin.
Love
Keown.
Martin, yeah. We would have a miserable evening.
And then, just finally, we're with Carlton Cole in a few weeks. Do you have a question for Carlton?
A question for Carlton. Who would your favourite, or put in order, your best Cole? Andy, Joe, Nat King, Carlton.
That's
I don't know.
yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, all right, we'll ask him that.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you very much and enjoy your Carling.
Thank you.